Before we begin, if you believe love is more than just routine, if you think relationships shouldn't run on autopilot, if you feel like choosing someone should be a daily decision, not just a promise you made once, then subscribe to this channel. Because here, we don't just tell stories. We uncover the quiet truths people are too afraid to say out loud. And if you've ever looked at someone you love and wondered, are we still choosing each other, or are we just staying? Then this story might stay with you longer than you expect. That it didn't happen during an argument. Not in the middle of raised voices. Not when emotions were spilling over. Not when silence turned into frustration. No, it happened on a quiet night. The kind of night where everything feels still. Almost too still. The house had finally settled into silence. No television murmuring in the background. No phones lighting up with notifications. No distractions to soften what was about to be said. Just the faint glow of a single kitchen light. And the soft, rhythmic sound of a spoon tapping gently against porcelain. He was stirring his tea. Slowly. Absent-mindedly. And I was watching his hands. I always watch hands when I'm nervous. Because faces can lie. Voices can shift. But hands hesitate. Hands reveal. I've been thinking, I said. The words felt light when they left my mouth. But they landed heavily between us. About us. He smiled. That familiar smile. The one I had memorized over the years. The safe one. The reassuring one. The smile that had carried us through everything. Late-night laughter. Inside jokes no one else would understand. Routine Fridays. Forgotten anniversaries. And forgiven ones. Arguments that faded. And love that always seemed to stay. That sounds dangerous, he joked. And I laughed. A little too quickly. Because this time, it wasn't a joke. I want to ask you something, I said. But I need you to really hear me before you answer. That's when he stopped. The spoon froze mid-stir. And for the first time that night, he looked at me, not casually, not distracted, but fully. Curious. Careful. Maybe even a little guarded. I'm listening, he said. That I took a breath. It felt heavier than it should have. I want us to try something different. The word just sat there between us. Different, he repeated. Not defensive. Not angry. Just cautious. Not wrong, I said quickly. Not dramatic. Not destructive. Just different. He leaned back slightly, studying me like he was trying to read something deeper than my words. Different how? For a second I looked away. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because saying it out loud would make it real. Not what you're thinking, I said softly. He raised an eyebrow. And what exactly am I thinking? I smiled, but my heart was racing. That this is about fixing something. He didn't deny it. And honestly, I couldn't blame him. It's not, I said. At least, not in the way he thought. Because the truth was more complicated than that. I wasn't unhappy, but I also wasn't fully awake. There was something inside me. Not pain. Not resentment. Something quieter. A kind of restlessness. A subtle curiosity. About myself. About him. About us. About the version of us that existed before we became so familiar. That nothing surprised us anymore. I just want us to be braver, I said. More honest than we've been. He frowned slightly. I thought we were honest. We are, I said. But there's honesty. And then there's truth. That's when everything shifted. Because he didn't interrupt. He didn't reassure me. He didn't laugh it off. He just sat there. Quiet. And somehow, that silence felt heavier than any argument we had ever had. What exactly are you asking? He said finally. I swallowed. I want us to talk about the things we don't say. The thoughts we filter. The questions we bury before they reach our lips. He exhaled slowly. That's not a small thing. I know. Is there something specific you're trying to ask? He said. I nodded. My pulse was loud now. There's one question. And once I ask it, I don't think we can unhear it. His jaw tightened slightly. Ask it. I hesitated. Just for a second. Because this was it. The line you don't cross, unless you're ready for whatever comes after. If you weren't my husband. I said quietly. Would you still choose me? Nothing exploded. No shouting. No dramatic reaction. But something shifted. The air itself felt heavier. Closer. More aware. He blinked. Once. Twice. That's not a fair question, he said. I know, I replied. But it's an honest one. Why would you even ask that, he said. Because sometimes, I wonder, if love becomes habit, if desire slowly transforms into loyalty, if we're still choosing each other, or just staying, because it's easier than starting over. He studied my face carefully. You think I don't desire you? That's not what I said. But it's what you're afraid of. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. And what about you? He asked. What's your role in all of this? I want you to ask yourself the same question, I said. If we met today, no history, no marriage, no obligación, would you still want me? The clock ticked loudly in the background. Seconds stretched into something longer. And for a moment, I regretted asking. Then he spoke. If I'm being honest, I don't know. That was the moment everything changed. Not because he said no, but because he didn't say yes. The days that followed were different. Not dramatic. Not chaotic. But quietly, intensely different. We still woke up in the same bed. Still shared morning coffee. Still moved through the same routines. But something underneath all of it had shifted. We were no longer leaning on history. We were looking at each other again. As individuals. Two people. Who could leave. Who could stay. Who could choose. And something unexpected happened. He started noticing me again. Not out of habit. Not out of obligation. But out of curiosity. What have you been thinking about lately? What scares you? What excites you? And for the first time in a long time, I had answers. Real ones. One evening, he came home. And paused in the doorway. Just stood there. Looking at me. What? I asked. Nothing, he said. Just seeing you. Not his wife. Not the routine. Not the familiar. Me. The truth is, that question didn't break us. It woke us up. It forced us to realize something we had forgotten. Love doesn't sustain itself. It doesn't survive on history. It doesn't grow just because it once existed. Love has to be chosen. Again. And again. And again. Not because you have to, but because you want to. So if you've ever been afraid to ask the question, the one that might change everything, maybe, that's the question you need the most. And if this story made you pause even for a moment, then subscribe. Because sometimes, the strongest relationships don't begin with comfort. They begin the moment comfort is no longer enough.